In commemoration with the End Violence Against Women and Children that has been going on, the celebration, and it takes about 16 days to celebrate these things. So we are still talking about it, even though we spoke about it yesterday. But today we want to hear from communities, because one of the things that we will definitely attest to is the fact that the numbers keep increasing on violence on women, girl child. There is always that fear. So International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women is something we'll be talking about today. Saturday, 25th November 2023 marks the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girl Child, and the start of 16 days of activism against the gender-based violence. Now, this moment provides an opportunity to reflect on the progress made in tackling the global surge of violence against women and girls in all its forms, as well as a call to action to redouble international efforts to eradicate such crimes. As one of the most prevalent and pervasive human rights violations, the gender-based violence encompasses physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering, and can often have a lifelong impact on the survivors. We're talking about situations where women are hurt, and at the end of the day, these are women that are supposed to be the nurturers, people that will train other generations. So when you leave a woman traumatized, then definitely that woman would actually bring that trauma and transfer it to the other generations, which is like you ruining an entire lineage. So these are things that we need to talk about. We are not taking it seriously enough, even though 2023 has shown that effort that, okay, this is something that even now the major stakeholders, the government, the security agents are trying to take it better. But now there is that grace that the society is giving these perpetrators. People do things and they'll tell you, no, it's okay, it's not that deep. But then someone's life has been ruined. So that is what we'll be talking about. Let's not forget 25th November to about 10 of December, which is the Human Rights Day. So 16 days to celebrate, to commemorate with women, to say that we want to put an end to women, to the violence on women. So these are things that, of course, we would be opening the phone line to hear from you. Fatima, this is so emotional for me. I really get emotional when I see these things, to a point that even when I am watching, movies and it comes with that kind of scene of violence on women or girl child, I tend to get triggered and tell myself there is somebody experiencing this exact thing at the moment. So even though I'm watching it in a movie, I don't get carried away to say, no, it's just a movie. So it's something that is really traumatizing.
Because, there are things that are not fictional. You can't just create that image that it's not happening, or you just sat down and say, oh, let me create a scene where a woman is being beaten or is being abused, or a child is being beaten or is being abused. It's reality. It's someone's reality. And it's the stories around people that we live with that we tend to show in our movies to educate people that, okay, this is it has to stop. It's a no. You can't just keep raising your hands on kids or women, because they are the vulnerable ones. And let's not forget that even men too tend to get abused too, but it's not as much as women being abused, right? So it's really emotional for every woman when this particular kind of thing happens or it comes up. It's something that we find difficult, to come to terms with, because one way or the other you might have been abused. It doesn't have to be physical, maybe even with words. You can be abused with words, So almost everybody has gone through that. So we would really love to hear from you.
Yes, of course. So to join the conversation, you can call the number on your screen here so that we can hear from you. How are we going to tackle this particular situation? What are we doing wrong as society in producing people with that kind of mindset that feel they need to harm other people, especially the weaker gender? We're talking about the women, and weaker not in terms of mindset, but in terms of strength. So that you can't join the strength of a man and a woman. So how did we go wrong in raising this kind of people? How did we go wrong in raising women to even tolerate that to some extent? How do we go wrong in pushing the narrative that if a family member should, rape or harm a family member, then part of the family members will be the one even pushing for, who lets the world not hear of it because our family would, be seen as cursed or something. How are we covering for these perpetrators for this long? What are we doing wrong? So please go ahead, call the number on your screen and talk to us. Let's also find the solution together, because we need to stop this. Every day, the numbers of gender-based violence keep increasing in our society, and it's alarming and scary. So we would want to hear from you on how to find the possible solutions. If you have experienced something like that, what do you think we need to do in order to get rid of that particular situation? And also you can send us a number via WhatsApp. Make sure that you include your name and location, in order to hear where we're hearing from you from. And please, if you're calling, do stay away from your TV set or tone down the volume. That way we can hear, from you constructively. We need to find solution for this. It is really scary.
Yes, I think before we start picking calls or messages, let's take a look at our guest that came by yesterday, who is actually a victim and a healing coach and an advocate for, people, victims that have been abused. Let's take a look at, a recap of what she has said on our show yesterday morning.
So the Orange the World, concept, the concept to end violence against women and girls. Every year we come up with a theme, and so this year's theme is Unite, Invest to prevent violence against women and girls. And that's just basically, more of collaboration of victim advocates, gender responders, policymakers, governments, NGOs, CSOs coming together to raise just one voice to end gender-based violence. Because, like you said, the statistics are rising despite the efforts, that are being put in either by individuals or organizations. But again, we see that there is, a voice in our unity. There's strength when we come together. And, you said it's largely celebrated, but, I even feel that we're not even doing it enough, because every day when you go to the police stations, when you go to the law enforcement, in our offices, as gender responders, we get daily reports and it keeps increasing. So sometimes even the statistics, what is reported, remember we still have areas where they're underreported. But one of the things that this united front is doing for us is the fact that is exposing us to areas where people can now gain access to, just like the SAT centers, for instance. 41 is nothing near the numbers that we're, clamoring for. But in this unity, our voice is becoming strengthened, our voice is becoming one. And this year's theme, even in the FCT, has gone far with that theme. So the culture of silence is like an age-long culture. I was a victim of sexual abuse, and I was silenced for over 23 years. And by the time I broke my silence, it was a shock to even people that were closest to me, because they didn't understand that I went through that and I was quiet. But I was threatened to silence and I lost my voice. When I found my voice, I knew that it wasn't just about telling my story, it was also becoming a voice to other people. And that is why you see us celebrate cases when we see a conviction, like the Dr. Lalaye's case, for instance, that the woman, the wife who caught him, stood up for her niece, and fought it till the end. And she's still currently being stigmatized. Not even the victim now, the person who reported. So we still have that cloud of ignorance. I think that's what I'll call it. Of people thinking, oh, is it a big deal? Is it a family matter? Can we settle this? But do not forget that, like you said, this causes trauma, deep-seated trauma. This causes depression and has led to suicide in some cases. So the culture of silence, what we do in our spaces as gender responders is to keep creating awareness, and is to keep telling them the damage that your silence would cause. I always tell people that keeping silence even causes more damage, to the victim. So the culture of silence is age long. It's been there for the longest time, and gradually people are coming out of their shell. And that's why I advocate for shelters, because sometimes when you tell someone to break their...
Okay, so that was Dr. Barrister Oluwatoyin Falaye. She came around yesterday, and she's an advocate. Sumaya, you can remember all the things she said yesterday. I could see how emotional, and you're still emotional even now, because when we discuss topics like this, it's not just you, it's everywhere. So we can't wait to hear from you, our viewers. Send us your WhatsApp messages and call us to join this conversation. Sumaya, let's talk about the silent culture. You know, you heard what she said.
That is the thing that we keep pushing. She even told us a story of a woman who has her husband was constantly abusing his own child, not a stepdaughter, his own daughter. And then when this girl got tired of this situation, she approached the coach. No, she approached the coach and their team to complain about this, and they went to the police station trying to push on this thing in order to prosecute the father. And the mother was the one begging. She was crying, begging for them not to prosecute the father. And the question the coach asked was, you are the mother of this girl, and your daughter is being abused. Feel okay? Like, what happened? I thought there is that love of spouse, but there is love for a child. I mean, this person is enjoying himself, so that makes him a selfish person. Meanwhile, this girl, her life is ruined. Do you know how she will never be someone that can easily say, I had the love of a father. And she's someone that she's supposed to get married and trust men. When she had the first role model in her life that she's supposed to love more than anybody, her father, is a monster. So at the end of the day, this girl even had to go back because there is no camp, you know, for victims like this by the federal government or even the non-governmental agencies that are already helping this particular situation. The camps are not much, so there was no space to even give the girl that she will stay away from these toxic people that she called or that are called her parents. So this lady now has to go through the same thing again because she is going back to her father's house because there is no family member that wants to take her in. Now she is becoming the bad person. The family are now looking at her as though she's the one that wants to ruin their family name. Why won't she continue taking it in silence? Does that even make sense? What is wrong in our society right now that if a person is being raped, sexually harassed, even in the workplace, people push her to quiet. You're supposed to keep quiet about it. Why would you want to stain someone's name? So when we don't hold these people accountable, they keep doing this thing over and over again, thinking that it is right. And they have people that support them. Now, I feel like even in our constitution, it should be that the people that are supporting, people that are enabling this thing that is happening should also get a sentence. They should pay for that. You know,
she made mention of something very important yesterday when she said the perpetrators are hiding. When you arrest these people, you know, committing all these crimes, their faces are covered. Why are you hiding their faces? That's a question I've always asked myself as well. You know, it's not just about when maybe you arrest a armed robber or you arrest a fraudster or something. Imagine when a hush puppy was arrested because he's a fraudster. His face was showing. They didn't hide his face. So why is it that when people that rape or, you know, molest or abuse women or a girl child, their faces are being covered, or you see them turning their backs to carry out interviews? Let us see their faces so we know who they are. So people will be, you know, cautious of people like that living in their communities or societies.
And it will scare the perpetrator. It will scare next people having that mindset.
That their faces are showing, so that way they would be able to, you know.
A typical example, Fatima, is what is happening with Nicki Minaj's husband, you know, the rapper.
Yeah.
Her husband was registered a sex offender. There was an accused, even though he's still denying the non-guilty thing. But then the victim was able to prove it. And he acted this while he was 16-year-old. He was still a minor. And even at that, he was still registered as a sexual offender. So wherever the rules is that even if he should travel, say interstate, let's use Nigeria as an example, if he should travel from Nasarawa State and tell and say I'm relocating there to Abuja, then when you come to the FCT, you are supposed to go to the sexual offenders office to register that you are a sexual offender. That way, they are warning people in that community that you just arrived and they need to be careful with you. So this is something that would bring shame to the people doing this and will not push them. But when you see the security agent get these people, then they quickly cover their faces, or you see bloggers posting it on social media and they're blocking this perpetrator's face. Why? You did something horrible. People need to see your face so that people would be able to, you know, protect their child. There was also another sad situation of a displaced person who didn't have a house, came to a community, people helped him, and he started, raping a mentally underaged person. Yes, a girl. which is another scary thing. How do you even think about this thing? How cautious can parents get? No matter what, we cannot say parents are not trying. Parents are trying to make sure their girl child is safe. Parents are trying to make sure their young boys are safe. But how cautious can one get that at the end of the day, you're not blaming the parents for not doing enough to protect their child from the perpetrators? How crazy has the country been, our mentality, our thoughts, that people are now hiding the fact that someone is raped and they're telling the person, don't say it, because if you say it, nobody would marry you.
Okay, we have a caller.
Why? Why is that? All right, so we have our first caller this morning. Good morning.
We lost the call.
All right, we lost that caller. Please go ahead, call us via the number on your screen, and also send in your messages. I'm sure that you have a lot to say on this act. We need to talk about what these victims are going through. We need to talk about the damage this can be on a girl child in general, and how this would affect a society when this act keeps being ignored. So would like to hear from you.
If you remember a couple of days ago in one of the front pages of the newspaper, I think, when they said abusers are going to be jailed for 7 years. Sexual abusers in universities, workplaces, I think it shouldn't be left out, because anywhere a woman is being abused one way or the other. And then, somewhere like you said, it's going to lead to, damage, a lot of damages, and then it's going to lead to suicide. And these are the kind of things that triggers people or women to actually do certain, or behave in a certain way that they may come back and regret later. So yeah, I think we need to put an end to this. This affects everybody, because it's all over the world. Anywhere there's a woman, she's been abused. And like I said earlier, it's not just women. Even men too are being abused, but it's not as much as women. So, because we are the vulnerable ones.
There was this story also about a man seeking divorce, I think in Ibadan. And one of the things he told the judge was that his wife beats him and humiliates him. So it's not all about, girl child and all that, but then we're emphasizing on girl child because this is the time for violence against the women. But things like this are happening, and whether we like it or not, you cannot hurt people just because of your own selfish reason.
I was telling you yesterday that someone, you remember, I saw a post on in one of the social media handles where a man said his wife is slapping and beating him, so he doesn't know what to do. He came out to cry on social media. What can the people on social media do to help you at this point? You are the man. If you feel you can't, take what she's doing any longer, you got married to her, you're the head of the family, you can let her go. Sit down and just have a conversation. I feel we're toxic for each other. Let's part ways, instead of, coming out on social media and putting your private life out there for people to advise. Someone called me yesterday, Sumaya. I wanted to say this, even though it sounds funny, that she's going to beat someone. I was like, who are you going to beat? She said she's going to beat a man, actually. And it was so funny because at this point that we are celebrating violence against women, and the woman is saying she wants to beat a man. It was so funny,
See, one thing that I feel like we keep going back and forth on is talking about people coming out on social media to talk. If people don't talk, we say they don't talk. And sometimes people do not have the avenue. We're talking about how counselors or therapists these days are quite expensive. So when someone does not have somebody to talk to, and you meet family members, and family members are quick to tell you, no, just be patient. That's the least a family member can tell you. So sometimes I feel like I understand why some people put their things on social media, because we're talking about mental health. A lot of things is going on for the longest time in someone's head, and if that person doesn't have the avenue to talk it out, then the person starts getting really mentally unstable. So sometimes people are pushed when they try, okay, I talked to this girl's family or this woman's family, example of the story that you just said now, and her family are saying, oh, be patient or something. They talk to her and she's not really listening. I talk to my family, they tell me, be patient with her. I mean, you're the man. Situations like that. So he can't even go to his friends to say it. So let me just leave an anonymous, tip out there. And hear what social media would say. And sometimes he might get a solution from that.
Yeah. A lot of times, actually, people will advise you on what they have done or what they think you should do to get out of that situation. Our guest yesterday, being a victim who has always come out to, you know, speak about her own situation, even though she was silenced for 25 years by her family. You know, your family are supposed to be the backbone. They're supposed to be the ones supporting you. You know, just like the case of the woman that, you know, you just mentioned, that when her husband was the one that you know, that assaulted their daughter, and they're trying to find justice for her, and she's crying and saying, no, don't take my husband and all. I think your family needs to support when girls come to you and they cry out. Like the man, this Lagos doctor that she mentioned, imagine his wife is the one that stood up for her niece.
Indeed.
And you know, the story went viral because to an extent, I think I followed up. You can see videos of him, you know, even assaulting his own patients that come to the hospital to seek his own advice as a professional, you know, because their health is involved and what have you, and you're taking advantage of them. There are so many of them out there.
And the most saddest part is that people were now blaming the wife, that people were calling the wife, telling her that why would you even
Go
expose
against
your husband like that? I mean, he's your husband. You should go back home and fix it quietly. So you're supposed to go back when you know that your husband is a monster, to go back with him and continue lovey-dovey with him. How does that make sense? Fatima, I would say one thing which I have seen for a fact, that it is for sure. We as a society in Nigeria, we are enabling these people. We are making these people go scot-free. You're covering the face of someone who raped a 6-year-old girl. You are covering the secrets of someone who raped your neighbor or even your child, because you don't want the world to see this girl and say, no, they will not marry her because of your reputation. Don't think it's because of the girl. Because if you want it because of the girl, you need to get justice for her. And justice would be the perpetrator being held accountable for what he did. Justice would be for you to take her to therapy and for her to speak out about what she's feeling. Justice would be for you to tell the society what your child has gone through, so that they will be able to help her grow out of that. Because someone wronged you and you're being told to keep quiet while that person is roaming around the streets, you know, living his best life. That is the most ridiculous thing I see happening in our society.
You know, Sumaya, it's really sad now that you're talking about all this, you know, some memories. Okay, we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Your name and location, please.
Thank you very much for having me on the program this splendid morning of today. Mohammed Modibo, calling from Gombe State.
Oh, Mohammed Modibo. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead with your thoughts.
This is an important day, the day that should be celebrated by all as Sunday. Provided we want a sane and healthy society, we have to ensure that violence against women is stopped in our society. It is when women are treated the way they're supposed to be treated in the right manner that we are going to have a sane and clean society. A society where the do's and don'ts of the society will be upheld by the inhabitants of the society. But when we allow violence against women to be on the increase in our society is going to be destroyed completely. So this habit of violence against women should be discarded and jettisoned in whatever form. And those who are caught in the act, they should be punished. The problem is, Sumaya have said it, we have a system that condones impunity. The law-abiding people must always see the law violators being punished. If the law violators are not being punished, even after taking to the appropriate authorities, it is not going to serve as a deterrent to others. Others will definitely go into it. And we'll also have to change our mindset. You know, the problem you are talking about, this issue of rape and how people try to conceal it, how people try to settle it at the Waterhead compound or at the comfort zone of the Waterhead and what have you. We also have to encourage and continue to sensitize our own people to know the dangers associated with this rape are rapists, and to continue to expose them wherever they are. And we have to ensure that we join hands. This problem must be tackled when all hands are on deck. We have to do all what we could within our capacity to ensure that our society is being sanitized. If the society is sanitized, definitely all things are going to move smoothly. Things are going to fall in place the way they are supposed to be, and we are going to enjoy the society. But when we allow things to go astray, it is all of us that are going to be consumed by our inaction and our lackadaisical attitude. We shouldn't be blaming others for our woes, because we are the architect of our own problem. That is my little take. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you so much,
Modibo.
At this point, I feel like you should join us on the show, because the ending that he said at the end of the day, we are the ones to blame. It's our own lackadaisical attitude. So I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, it's us that is making this thing continue to happen. I made this example yesterday, and I will still bring it today. In the Asian country, example, let's narrow it down to South Korea. If you should as easy as touch a woman without her permission, even if you're her friend, then she can scream out, and then the law enforcement would hold you for harassment, because you're not allowed to even touch a woman. I mean, we saw a situation on social media where a fan came to hold this ex-BB Nigeria housemate Stacha, and he just asked for a picture, so she granted him the wish, and then he immediately carried his hand around behind her waist, and she felt uncomfortable, so she was immediately removing it. And Nigerians were coming out to say that she's doing it because he's poor. Like, what kind of mindset is that? Where in the world is it okay for a man to touch a woman without asking her for permission? It doesn't even make sense. So when you see these people doing this, and then it's turned on the victim. They start making the victim to look like the bad person. You know, a victim gets raped, and then you first ask the victim, why did you wear this?
Okay,
why did you go this? A really sad situation. All right, we have another caller. Good morning.
Please, can I contribute to the program?
Yes, please. Your name and location, please.
Pastor Ishika John from Delta, Sapele.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us from Sapele.
Go ahead with your thoughts.
What I have to say was, I suffered. First of all, I commend you people for all what you people are doing.
Thank you.
May God Almighty bless you people and reward you very much.
Thank you.
And may your children never had any cause to suffer from this sort of thing.
Amen to that.
And during the time I was growing up, my mom was a student mistress. She had almost about 5 assistants that were living with us. At a tender age, when I was growing up, at the age of about 3, 4, I was being molested in the bedroom by each one of them. After my mom might have left to the shop. So when you people are saying violence against women, you must also say violence against men and boys' child.
Of course.
And now that I'm a priest, a lot of these religious houses cover up things, especially when they are being given money by the husband. They now look at these women, most of these people that are being molested by their husband, if I would say, as being troublesome. Look at the case of this woman that died, Osinachi. Before the case was blown to the limelight, she's been suffering on the ground, and each time they go to the pastor will say, save your marriage, save your marriage. So let's keep on hammering so that people will speak up. Just like the last caller said, one day, we'll be free. Then once again, one of your presenters there was saying that it is better for them to show the face of these people so that we serve as a deterrent. If they can show the face of these people that are doing 419 and these other criminals, why can't they show the face of these sexual harassment people?
Exactly.
So that at least when their face are being shown, people will identify them in the neighborhood and say, we saw your face also. So they will learn to be detached from it.
Yeah.
So I know one day, justice will be done.
Yes.
Because really, we can't rely much 100% on our legal system.
Yeah.
You go there, once the other one that committed the crime has money to shoot out, the case will be overturned. I know God will fight for us. God will fight for us. God will fight the cause of the just. Thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you.
Oh my God, Charles, I've been trying to hold myself, and right now you're getting me more emotional. But I hope that you heal from whatever happened to you. That was a really sad situation.
Somewhere I mentioned, that even men are being abused.
Yes.
It's not as much as women. I mentioned it earlier. So we know that men are also being abused, and that's why we made some statements of some men that you just made mention of, and I also made mention of. So definitely, even the lawyer yesterday made mention of boys that are being
been molested, yes, and
it's sad. It's hard to even say that.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
And we're talking about domestic violence, where we also made mention of women hitting their men hitting their women. Sometimes it reached to that stage where there will be loss of life, which is really unnecessary. And we still come back again to the society. I mean, we've heard situations where people go to the police station and a wife would complain that my husband beats me, and the police will say, but he's your husband, now go back and fix the marriage.
Or they'll say this is a husband and wife matter.
Exactly. First of all, when it comes to hitting someone, even if you're married to a person and you're about to go have sexual relations with her, and she tells you no, that is rape, you're raping your wife. I know Africans don't have that mentality, but it is rape when someone does not like it, because religiously both parties need to be in consent, even if you're married. That's how it is. So go back and pick your holy book and read more in order to understand these things. I mean, it keeps getting worse, where society would tell you, no, it is okay to stay in that marriage because you're being beaten. It's just beating. It doesn't make sense.
You come and pick their dead bodies. So,
exactly.
That's what I'm saying, that family are supposed to be the support system.
Only fight, you can only work on marriage. You can only work on marriage when there is no beating, that violence in it. Okay, so we have another caller. Good morning. Good morning. Are you with us? Okay. Please do go ahead or call and send us messages in order to tell us your thoughts on this matter. A really sad situation. So it goes beyond marriage and say no, it's okay for us to do these things, or it goes beyond family and say no, it's because you're family, you can do a heinous crime and get away with it. We need to remove that mentality.
I actually wanted to make mention of one from Mardia's program, Law and Order, back then, where I followed her to one community, at the suburbs, where a woman and her daughter are hiding from a son of the king of their community raped her daughter, and they went to the police station. Sumaya, the sad thing is the mother was also raped by the policemen at the police station where she went to report the case. The story is still there. You can check it out on YouTube because it's part of Mardia's program. And it's really sad, because you find people, even the lawyer that came yesterday, don't forget, I made mention that she was silenced for 25 years by her own family. You don't know the trauma she had to go through, the sleepless nights that she had to go through, you just remembering those moments. Only God knows what, the soul cannot take at that time, but then you have to.
And then imagine the victim seeing the perpetrator every day. As in for that 22 years, imagine
25
you looking,
years.
25 years looking at that. All right, okay, so we have another caller. Good morning.
Okay.
Yes, your name and location, please.
Okay, my name is Elijah Ulol from Mahia in Katsina.
Okay, thank you for joining us from Katsina. Go ahead.
Thank you. You see, I've been watching a program, especially this one you are doing now. And it's a very interesting program. Also, especially as you are talking about violence against the women. Yeah, I have two things to say. Just like somebody said before me, actually, for long you have been talking about violence against women, but there are violence against men, most especially by women. So at least you should have time also to talk on violence against men, so that this thing will be yes, uniformly.
Of course.
Hello?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can
We're
hear
with you.
And then the second thing, the second thing I want to say is that when you talk of violence against women, I thought you would be discussing on the causes, the reasons why there is this violence against women. You know, there are so many causes, disobedience and many other reasons. So at least you should be talking about reasons. Because when somebody sees it, you will even think that only men are beating or harming women. But we have to look at the reasons why these things are happening if we want to face the reality. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. That's what I want to do, at least add in your own presentation.
Okay.
When you are discussing this, at least you should be mentioning reasons why this thing is happening. And then lastly, I want to buy your idea where you say that most of these people that are causing this violence against women, at times they were said to be if they were prevented. So at least if such people are punished, at least this problem will be minimized. But where somebody will commit an offense, when he is taken maybe to law enforcement agents, generally you see that after a day or two, you will see him on the street again. So we must at least punish this type of people that are doing this, whether they are women or men. Hello?
All right. Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, he gave a lot of things, and one of the things that you mentioned about also lining out why these things are happening. I mean, in some of the discussions that we had, we actually dropped a bit of how these things are happening, and one of them that I specifically said is that while growing up, you know, people are seen differently. There are things that people do that we just ignore, and I will never forget while growing up, there's always that mentality, and we still carry it, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, where they would say something like a bad thing is qualia for a man. You know, a man can be wrong, a man can do bad things, but then it's still okay, he's a man, so it's nothing.
And so
but then
let's not
a woman
forget,
can do a little, and then
it's a big
the society chastise her. So that is why, even though there is violence against men, the ratio is really different when it comes to women, because the society would quickly blame a woman. Even you are being raped and you are the one that is still blamed on why you dressed like this, why you went to this place, why did you smile like this, maybe that was why the person. So the society is always trying to protect the man and give reason why the man might have done that. And then somebody will be like, no, he was not in his right frame of mind, that was why he did this. So things like this is what is happening. So it boils down to parents taking care of the children, making sure that while you're trying to, you know, balance, you should try to balance how you treat your child, whether a boy or a girl, and you need to show your children how to respect people's opinion. I mean, when you go on social media, you see how people talk and think these days, you start getting scared. Why must I think exactly like you think? So you need to know boundaries. You need to teach your children boundaries.
You know, yesterday from the introduction to our program yesterday, you know, we made mention of 14% of women in Nigeria alone are being molested or abused, or, you know, physically abused. And the 14% is out of the 250 million Nigerians, it's like 35%, or let's say 35 million women in Nigeria are being abused in one way or the other. Like we said, even with words, you know, like words carry weight too. You know, like you can actually abuse someone by their looks, and it can actually stress them mentally and stuff. So that's because it's categorized into 4, right? Women are being abused physically, sexually, economically, you know, and psychologically. So psychologically, in the sense that if I see you dressing in a certain way and I say, why are you dressed this way? Why are you so fat? Why are you so ugly? that's an abuse. It doesn't really have to be physical, you know, like punching and, you know, stuff like that.
Indeed.
And like you rightly mentioned, we mentioned that men are also being abused. It's like they don't even, we try to balance, but then
they don't. And I understand where they're coming from. I mean, they feel like we keep
they are left out.
And why we are doing that is because this is the 16 days that is in commemoration is to, end violence against women. That is what we're talking about. This. I mean, when something about men comes up, of course we push. Society needs to be healthy. One of the things that I would definitely push is one of the reasons that this thing is growing is, like we said, parents need to do better. Parents keep telling their girl child that you can do this, but then they tell the boy child, and even if you should do this, it's okay, you can get away with it. So society is grooming people to tell them that it is okay to do a lot of things, and just because you're a man, then you can get away with it.
And you know, we are being confused. You know, growing up, they'll say, "Oh, anything a man does is fashion, right?"
Exactly.
But then anything a woman does is against the law, is against it.
And also
again, they said anything a man does is fashion.
So it's contradictory. And also, Fatima, there is that thing that we do that also puts that mindset on a child. You know, a boy grows up seeing his father hit his mom all the time. Constantly. Or a girl grows up seeing her mother hitting her father constantly,
or abusing him verbally,
yes,
all
verbally,
the time.
you know, physically, emotionally, things like that. So when a son grows up and see a woman treating his father bad, then he start thinking, okay, I need to pay back what my mom did to my father, and they'll start also being hurtful to other women. Or if a man grows up to see his role model, his father hitting his mom, then he'll be like, then it's fine, I can hit other women as well. After all, my dad did it.
Yeah.
So they
use violence. They feel they become so used to it that they feel using violence or hitting is the only way to correct a mistake done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also there is that part of where if a girl child now grows up seeing her mother being beaten and she's taking it, so she has that mentality of, okay, even if he's beating me, I should take it, right?
Yeah.
And that decision usually ends someone in the grave, which is something that we're trying to eradicate. This is beyond heinous. This is bad. We need to change that narrative. We need to put a stop on it. And like Modibo, the first caller, said, he said that at the end of the day, it's still us that would fight it. And you know when you're doing something wrong. You know that when right now the media, we're always pushing ourselves to say that we need to show the face of these perpetrators, and it's something that we're already working on. It shouldn't be hidden. I mean, when it comes to human rights, you don't have the right to abuse someone physically, mentally, emotionally, and then at the end of the day you now come and say you have rights to cover your face. No, that doesn't work here. There should also be sexual offenders register where these things will be registered. That way they would be hold accountable to these particular situations. And yes, at the end of the day, we have to leave you with parents need to be extra careful also with taking care of their children. Keep an eye on your child. They are so vulnerable, the boy and the girl. I mean, there was one story that happened in Bauchi where 4 men lured a 4-year-old boy to a nearby mosque, you know, yes, continuously, you know, a very disgusting graphic, and these people were caught, but we never heard the end of the story. So it still boils down to us as a society pushing, making sure that we see these things to the end in order to have these perpetrators pay their dues. But anyways, yeah, this is the much that we can take on this issue. If we decide to take this, we can drag it for the whole day, but then we know what to do. Let's find possible solutions for these heinous crimes that is happening in our society.